Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Historical Humans Heritage. And if you saw our most recent podcast episode, we were talking about the Nazca Lines. Well, the Nazca Lines also just so happen to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Would you look at that coinkydink, that coincidence? Like it's Yeah, we definitely planned this out. We intentionally tied these episodes together, but it's a good way for us to actually show the visual representation and talk more in depth of some of the protections and more intricacies that we don't get the chance to talk about.
Yep.
What an intro,
Mhm.
eh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Nazca lines are geocliffs located near the coastal plain of Peru, about 400 kilometers south of Lima. They are all approximately 2,000 years old, and they are one of archaeology's great mysteries because we simply just do not know why they were made. We
Where
know
did
how
they
they were
come
made.
from?
We can remake them at ad nauseum, but we just don't know why they did it.
Where did they come from? Where did they go? Where did you come from, Nazca Line Joe?
Yep. And here I believe we have a depiction of the hummingbird
Uh,
as the main page here.
is that not the condor?
Uh, Not sure.
Well, either way,
No,
there's a lot
no.
of great reference images.
It's
Ooh, I see a picture of a man. Is
maybe it's the condor. I don't know. There's some of them. There's some of them that it's hard to remember them all.
can see the monkey on this image.
Yeah, no, that's the hummingbird. It's got the see the nose. The
Uh,
default
we're
is
looking at some of the other ones, like the spooter, the spider. I'm going through the image, so if you want to
you're
talk
going to
about
the
the site, we're just looking at
okay,
visual
but
references.
it's the yeah, but the first one was the hummingbird. That's the only point
Okay.
there. So, um, yeah. So one of these are some of the most impressive looking archaeological sites in the world, simply because nowhere else in the world do people decide to build like this. Uh, the Nazca effectively built a 450 square kilometer monument that is exactly 15 centimeters tall,
Deep, deep.
deep.
It's
Yeah,
not tall, it's deep. It goes in,
that's it.
it's
But that
recessed,
is
but they dug
that
out
is the height of the
they dug out all of these lines and lined them with dark stones and cleared parts of the desert to show these images. And
yeah.
one of the things that's noted about them and that people consistently mention is how you really truly get an idea for the size and scale of these from the air, from above.
Yeah.
And it's also what makes it unique is these glyphs are massive. They're miles long in some cases, hundreds of feet, and this was before a time of technology to be able to view them, to be able to see them. So the fact that they were doing this with relatively blind is very impressive to me.
Yeah. Yeah, there is doing it very much blind, and the UNESCO World Heritage Site does talk about some of the more continuity of the site. For example, the Nazca River Valley uh, shows signs that for nearly 2,000 years without interruption, the inhabitants of this river valley were drawing on rocks and in the ground in their river valley, which just goes to show that, well, the Nazca lines are when they sort of explode onto this big map of, massive scale across the desert. This is something that people were working on, was a part of local culture for centuries and centuries before it was ever drawn. In fact, they have a number of phases to the Nazca lines, including several that predate the Nazca culture as we understand it archaeologically.
So what you're
Uh,
saying is there was a precursor culture that also did this monumental architecture.
technically, uh, technically, there was three phases before the Nazca. Um,
Impressive.
yeah, two of which are centered around the formation of village growth into larger polities. those being the formative period and the regional development period, dating back as far as 500 BC and going all the way up to 580, which sort of overlaps with when the Nazca were around, as the Nazca are around about 200 to 600. And also, there's the precursor group called the Paracas, which date back to about 400 BCE.
So quite a good range of dates and quite a bit of
Yep.
variation between all the sites. And one of the things that is very interesting to me about these sites and about these lines is just quite how precise they are. The fact that the deviations, whether intentional or not, are quite limited in scope, and a lot of these lines have very minimal distortion over miles of distance. I mean, what was the measurement you had during the podcast episode?
Yeah, so yeah, a line would be perfectly straight with a variance of less than 1 foot per mile in many cases.
Which this here you can see examples of these lines going across the desert floor, and then you see the wings of the hummingbird and the beak there in the last image. So yeah, it's quite nifty. It's quite cool, and we've alluded to it a little bit in this episode, and we've talked about it during the podcast, but a lot of this leads into some conspiracy theories of aliens, given the fact that the aerial nature of it. However, this is just monumental architecture in its finest, and one of the most concrete evidence that it is not aliens is the fact that these images are also represented on a lot of their pottery and artwork that they did outside of the monumental stuff, you know?
Yeah, and in terms of integrity and how well preserved they are actually extremely well preserved. The environment actually serves as a natural sort of cleaner for these lines, as between the very arid desert land that these are on, keeps everything dry, prevents a lot of movement and loss from rainfall or flooding or just general problems you have when you have moisture in the air. And it's also very flat and very windy, meaning that any dust or debris that gets knocked into these lines is very quickly swept out of it, keeping that lighter color nice and clear and contrasting against the dark landscape.
Wow.
It actually it basically nature serves as one giant housekeeping service for these monuments.
And then the government decided to pave a highway through the property.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. The biggest threat to the lines is people, tourists,
Truckers.
imbeciles, government infrastructure projects. uh, all of it, all of these have caused severe damage to a number of glyphs. Uh, and it's been increasing in recent years as the glyphs have become more famous and more accessible, and as tourism has increased. Peru has had some major problems with over tourism in the past few decades.
It's becoming a more common occurrence at a lot of these very prominent sites where they just can't handle the capacity of tourists that try to visit, even though they will do their best to try and accommodate it purely based on economic factors. But these sites are starting to degrade at a rapid rate because of the significant amount of tourism that is taking place.
Yeah,
It is having a negative impact instead of a traditionally positive impact.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And one of the key things here with why are these things getting damaged in various ways, like with a highway or with people driving or walking over them, is actually a funny little glitch in its protections and management. See, both UNESCO and the Peruvian government have protections for the Nazca lines. They have laws in place to preserve and protect them. However, the laws that protect the boundaries for what is considered an archaeological reserve are in severe need of redefinition, as they do not fully encompass the actual distribution of the lines, meaning that a number of Nazca lines lie outside of this barrier, and there are parts of this barrier that actually cover nothing but open desert.
Interesting.
It is, and the UNESCO openly recommends that Peru resurvey the land and resubmit a new set of boundaries for the lines to fix this error. That is where a lot of problems come in because it's a Nazca line, it's an ancient monument, but it's technically not within the modern recognized zone for them.
That's just
Because
so wild.
yeah, because you can't really expect a people from 2,000 years ago to know about or respect modern zoning laws.
I don't know. They should know if it's a mixed use residential commercial property or not.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great point for us to wrap up here. I mean, we talked about a lot of things that we weren't able to, specifically the protections and some of the artwork behind the designs. I mean, it's quite the sight, and we were quite proud to do it because this marks 2 years of historical humans, and it's truly been a wild journey.
And it was the studying of these lines in undergrad for me that gave me the idea to even start making a channel like this. So we figured it was a good homage to go here for our season finale.
And I kept pestering him, telling him, "We'll do it better. We'll do it better." And yet here we are. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.